Love your neighbor as yourself is the second. So I want to be the best neighbor that I possibly can be. So what I've done is not only just turn my backyard into, I can't call it a food forest because it's not that big yet, but it provides for me and all my family and all my friends. I was re-diagnosed with stage 1 at this point. Now don't mourn for me because it was the best thing that ever happened to me, believe it or not. Sudden it was like just a mandate from heaven dropped on me saying, Vonnie, you're going to grow more food than you've ever grown in your life. I've been finding every bit of scrap lumber, things that people are giving away or whatever, and I've built everything here myself.
Why are you so focused on helping others when you're at like a harder point yourself? Okay, so we are in a unique spot. We are in a backyard garden with Yvonne.
Yes.
And you've started calling your kitchen, what is it?
Vonnie's Homestyle Cafe.
Because not only are you doing your backyard garden, but you've actually started planting gardens for your neighbors too.
My neighbors, yes.
That's awesome. So tell me a little bit about what you've got going on here and how this all got started.
Well, actually it all started many, many years ago in the early 70s. I'm a product of the 70s. I actually grew up with Mother Earth News and kind of like, not really the hippie culture, but getting back to the earth and all that was prevalent during the 70s. And my dream was to homestead, even when I was just a teenager. We moved down here in the 1970s to take care of the gentleman who owned the house, who was actually living with my step-grandfather at the time. When my step-grandfather died, that left him, he was already in his 80s. He was too ill to take care of himself. My mom, always a caretaker for her family, moved us down here. We've never lived any farther than 2 blocks from this house. For all of my 62 years, I've lived right here in Baldwinsville. When he passed away, he had told Mom that you'll never want for a house because of being the only one that cared for him.
Aww.
But unfortunately, when he passed, no will was probated, and we did not know anything about things like taxes until the tax man showed up at our door about 7 years later saying this house was going to go on the tax block for in 2 weeks. Because my dream was always to homestead while all my friends were partying. I was working full-time and I sunk every penny into a bank account for my dream, which was a house out in the boonies. I wanted to build my own house. I had actually made 3-scale models. I was probably the youngest member of the Rodale Book Club. You know, I had books on all kinds of agriculture, passive solar, earth-bermed houses, rammed earth houses, yurts, everything.
Yeah.
I was 18 years old and I was actually putting all my money away for that dream. When the tax man came, I had to transfer the dream. So my homestead now became my farmstead because I went down to the county and I paid all the back taxes with my dream.
Wow.
And I became a homeowner at 22 years of age. Never paid a mortgage. Wow. Only paid the back taxes. So this was a God plan.
Wow.
He put the desire in my heart for this homestead, and at the same time the sense of responsibility. I kept a roof over my family's head.
So when was that?
I got the house in 1982.
Okay.
I graduated in 1980, and 2 years later I'm a homeowner. So my dream of being out rurally and raising my homestead, it just now became my backyard suburbstead.
Yeah.
Because I'm in the heart of a very bustling village.
Yes, you are.
Baldwinsville is in the town of Lysander. Most of Lysander is very rural, and it was before housing developments came in. There was still a sense of community here in this neighborhood. It's a very old neighborhood, although we have a lot of new neighbors now because things have turned over. I'm from the old school. You know, we're porch people. We sit on the porch and watch life go by.
Yeah.
And when different neighbors have moved in and other ones have passed away, I feel my responsibility to not just welcome them, but, well, you know, the first law is love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself is the second. So I want to be the best neighbor that I possibly can be. So what I've done is not only just turn my backyard into, I can't call it a food forest because it's not that big yet, but it provides for me and all my family and all my friends. And in so doing, we have a neighbor over here that I've planted his garden. I have a brand new neighbor across the street that I've planted a garden for this year. 2 elderly women up around the corner that I mow their lawns, I tend their gardens, and I just take care of them too. So this is, and everything that I bring in, people know me on Facebook to show pictures of all the harvest and maybe some of the concoctions that I whip up. So that's how Vonnie's Homestyle Cafe got its name.
Let's go take a look at some of the things you've got. So you said like you've got your shaded area over here.
This is a shade bed. We planted those spruce trees probably in the 1980s, I think.
Wow.
But this, all of these hostas, actually, this hosta bed was dedicated to my aunt, who she had a massive hosta garden, and she would donate some of these. So when she passed away, this became the Marty Newcomb Memorial Garden here. Yeah, I do love the greenery.
It's beautiful.
I've got all kinds of flowers here. My mother's passion was perennials as well as the flowers. This whole backyard at one time was all just perennials. It was a perennial bed. My mother, as she became aged and a little bit unable to walk anymore, we just set a couple of Adirondack chairs out here, enjoy the flowers and watch all the bird life. I was doing photography myself, and it was much easier, instead of going traipsing off all over God's green acre looking for subjects, nature photography. If I planted it, they would come. So I actually have the first recorded photo of a giant swallowtail for Onondaga County. So because he floated right past me in my garden while I was sitting here with my camera in hand.
That's really cool.
This garden, after Mom passed away, I kept some of the perennials in here. You see a lot of the flowers in here.
Yeah.
But I've been finding every bit of scrap lumber, things that people are giving away or whatever, and I've built everything here myself. All of the beds, that little arbor over there. Yeah, everything that you see here has been through my joy, as well as, resourcefulness.
Yeah, I love it.
And you caught me. I was just harvesting here today, because today's a good day to pull up garlic and see what we've got.
Garlic, you got some asparagus, some leafies.
Yep.
Nice. It kind of started as like a flower garden more with your mom. You always wanted a homestead. So when did you start really putting the food aspect into it, the vegetables and the fruits and things?
We'd always grown out in the back. We'd always had an in-ground garden. But through the years, it was just your tomatoes, zucchini, things like everybody grows, beans, things like that. When I was working full-time, I was working at SUNY Upstate Hospital. You just don't have the time to enjoy life and enjoy your gardening and all that.
Yeah.
What happened was in 2010, I was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer. I took that whole year off to do the whole 9 yards, the mastectomy, chemo, radiation, and went back to work in 2011. I was no longer able to do the job that I originally did, which was a stores clerk where I had to lift a lot of weight. I lucked out and got a nice cushy desk job. And for 6 years, we just did minimal gardening. It was mostly the perennials. It was just enjoying the wildlife, the birds and the hummingbirds and everything that came in. But in 2016, I was re-diagnosed with stage 1 at this point. Now, don't mourn for me, because it was the best thing that ever happened to me, believe it or not. My story is kind of unique in that the second diagnosis was not metastatic. It was just two brand new Genesis tumors. So when I went through that mastectomy and chemotherapy, not being metastatic, that means there was no lymphatic involvement this time. And what it did was it actually earned me Social Security disability and early retirement from the state of New York. So I spent that whole year, 2016, with my mother, who would then pass in 2017, in March of 2017. So it was actually a gift, an absolute gift, because we just enjoyed life during that whole year, 2016, as much as I could. At that point, after the second mastectomy in 2016, I was going through Pinterest and I saw this guy, Joel Karsten, talk about straw bale gardening. Here I am, I'm just recently having a major surgery. I still had drains in my chest from the surgery, But I talked to my friend Sandy, hey, you ever hear of this? And she said, yeah, I kind of have, let's do it. So we went out, bought a whole pickup truck full of straw bales. And I actually, because you know, when they're freshly cut, they're light, I positioned them all in place, and I did my first straw bale garden in 2016, set it up 2 weeks after my mastectomy.
Oh my
right?
gosh.
Because that's how easy it is. The beauty of that gardening is that especially handicapped people can do it, because your straw bales are about, 18, 24 inches off the ground.
Right.
You don't have to dig in the soil. You don't have to bend and weed. You just basically you condition them with fertilizer, set your plants in, forget them, just keep them watered. You're off.
Yeah.
So that produced incredibly. That was the best garden I think I'd ever had up to this point. So again, another blessing from the second diagnosis. Ensuing years after Mom passed, I wasn't too sure, because it's just me. Wasn't too sure about what I wanted to do out here. And in 2019, I had a really bad year, even with the straw bale gardens. I did not know about Grazon at the time.
Oh, okay.
And if you got I got straw bales from different sources, and one would produce fine and the one right next to it would kill everything, because it had, aminopyralids, I think, in the straw, So I remember telling Sandy in December of 2019, that's it. I don't see any reason to garden anymore. It's just me, and it was such a horrible year. Why bother? And then this is so strange, but God works His ways. I'm sitting on the couch crocheting an Afghan, and all of a sudden, and I never said anything, so it wasn't the algorithms hearing me, but I'm watching YouTube videos on something completely unrelated, and all of a sudden this video pops up of this girl teaching how to grow greens in soil bags under a Sterlite container. That would be Jessica Sowers from Roots and Refuge. And never heard of her, never heard of them. This was in, I think it was late January or early February of 2020. And this is intriguing, So I started watching some of her videos, and then all of a sudden it was like just a mandate from heaven dropped on me saying, Vonnie, you're gonna grow more food than you've ever grown in your life. But I had no idea why. And all of a sudden I became consumed with, okay, I need to learn all the things. I need to do all the things. As I said, Jess's tagline is turn your waiting room into a classroom. I've always had a desire to learn all the things, learn all the ins and outs of how to do everything that I've ever done in my life, right? Had no idea that 3 or 4 weeks later, the whole world would shut down with COVID. And then a couple of weeks after that, store shelves would be empty. I truly believe that was a mandate. It's like the Joseph mandate from heaven. Get your house in order, start learning how to do all these things, put up all these things, because maybe you won't need it, but somebody will. I took care of my friends and my neighbors, started planting everything out here. Again, planting my neighbor's garden over there, 2 more up, across the street and whatever. And I said that when everything goes south, none of my friends or family are going to starve. That year, I got my first pressure canner. We've always water bath canned, but never anything more than like tomatoes or pickles or whatever.
Right.
Now I got into pressure canning, and I've I don't want to say I'm a prepper.
You're prepared.
Yes, we're prepared, exactly. The pressure canner led to an Excalibur dehydrator. I've learned how to ferment everything. I love fermented food, so I ferment everything. As a matter of fact, before you came, I was just putting up some kefir cheese that I just made from goat milk that I got from a farm. I do it all. Oh, and last year I actually took advantage of Harvest Right's sale and bought a freeze dryer. Okay. Now it's just me, but as I said, nobody's going to starve. Again, it's all about community, loving your neighbor as yourself. So I just want to make sure that everybody's taken care of. In learning how to do all these things, I've created all of these beds. I've got the towers, the green stalks.
Yeah, walk me through some of the things you've got in here. So right now we're at the. What are we? We're almost middle of July now.
Yes.
Gosh, this
yes,
summer's
we are.
flying.
No kidding.
So your garden is rocking out. It's beautiful. There's so many green things in here. So what do we got growing in here?
Well, all of these are the perennials here that were left over because they're great pollinators. This is bee balm, different kinds of bee balm.
Tons of little
echinacea,
bees around here.
Butterfly bush are these tall bushes up here with a dark purple blossoms, and they just draw so many pollinators and birds and whatnot. You know, the green stalk is best for, I find it for greens and things like
Oh,
that.
yeah, that's a good idea.
This here is celeriac. This is celery root
Yep.
that, you know, and I've started everything from seed myself.
Oh, wow.
Different peppers in here. You got to have a little bit of beauty, so I put some flowers in here. My strawberries were just in the upper tier, but because the runners are coming down, I'm starting them in the second tier here. This is radicchio.
What is that?
Radicchio it's a kind of a bitter. You ever have a salad mix? It's got the red and white. It's almost like cabbage, but it's a little bit more bitter. But it's in with lettuces. Yeah, that's radicchio. It's quite tasty. Celery. I love my greens, so we got different lettuces. Got leeks all along the bottom. More strawberries. These are all my hot peppers here.
Okay.
And you caught me. I was just harvesting
Some of your garlic.
my garlic that I picked up some cloves at a little Mennonite store, put them in September, and voila, we have garlic.
Cool.
These are all my hot peppers here. I've got
Can we walk around to the other side?
Yes, absolutely.
Or are these walk paths?
We'll go right through
Okay.
here. Sweet pea, not sweet peas, excuse me. Telephone peas going up along the trellis back there.
Okay.
These are just leftover plants from my mother's, garden. Beautiful rose that she had here that will have beautiful red blossoms.
yeah.
This is the hummingbird's most favorite plant in the world. This is called crocosmia. It's just gorgeous. This is a pretty powder puff. This is called meadowsweet or queen of the prairie.
Do you have any herbs in here too? Because I know there are a lot of like functional, but also beauty plants where, maybe it's a flower, but the leaves, can be used for herbal medicine or teas or
Yes, I do. A lot of my herbs have not really, they've kind of failed me this year. I've had a lot of ravaging from the critters. Anytime I find some wood or whatever, I just throw together these boxes at least they left my dill alone. And actually last week on Marketplace, I found this is a rabbit run for out in the yard, a playpen.
Oh yeah.
And I said, well, if it keeps rabbits in, then it'll also keep rabbits out. And I didn't realize that you'll see a topper on everything. The last couple of weeks, I was wondering why none of my brassicas were making it, because they were all being leveled off at the top. And then I realized, well, deer were coming through here.
Oh my gosh, you have deer in here?
Deer, oh yeah.
Wow.
We have a huge wildlife. Actually, it's state land just beyond Oneida Street here.
Okay.
So they come right through these backyards, and this fence I had to knock down. So they just had carte blanche at Vonnie's salad bar.
Oh my gosh.
Because the deer ravaged everything, I actually had to pull all my broccoli out, and I picked up some plants, 75% off this week at Runnings, folks.
There you go.
And got those in for my fall planting, because they do better in the fall anyway.
Yeah.
So cabbages, Brussels sprouts, kohlrabi. This is my favorite vegetable of all, our rutabagas. And this whole bed back here, I started these from seed, and they're the most tiny little seed and seedlings ever. But they've come up and they'll do really great. Yeah, something was getting in here, chewing everything off too. So when I finally figured it out, it doesn't look great, but it's functional.
Exactly.
Onions, the first time I've ever successfully got onions from seed. These are Alyssa Craig onions here, so I'm really chuffed about that. But this is really cool. I put together this arch trellis last year because I wanted to learn hydroponics. So what I had last year were Kratky passive hydroponics in here. And I grew tons of tomatoes in here. And I'll show you, I actually started some hydroponics to demonstrate for you just 2 weeks ago, so we'll show you that. But I had the arch trellis here. This cherry tomato right here,
look
this
at that thing
9-foot tall
rocking.
cherry tomato, was actually a volunteer up by my house last year. And I brought it in the house, and I nursed it all winter long up in my bathroom under my grow lights. It came out here in early spring, and it was already this tall. And I've been eating cherry tomatoes in June, which is unheard of for here.
That's awesome.
Never had an idea that I could have a tomato this early this year.
So you created this for hydroponics. Why did it not work out?
It did work out. It's just that I had other ideas, other things I wanted to experiment with. This is my science project.
Yeah, I love it.
Everything is all about learning the things, right? So as I told you, I had trouble with the Grazon in the straw bales, so I've really dialed back on straw bale gardening. Actually, why don't I show you what I have for the straw bales? I only have
Sure.
4 bales this year. Even them, even now, they're not doing that great because of, well, this is all eggplant, and you see it looks like a bird shot. That's from these little black flea beetles that love it. And celery back there, they're coming on now once they get past that stage. When we first started straw bale gardens, we got them for $4 a bale. But if I wanted to just go up to the street and get an extra bale, they're up to $9, $10 a bale now.
Yeah.
I'm on Social Security disability. I can't afford it. Another reason I thought I would be interesting for your viewers, those who maybe can't afford to go out and just buy bags of soil or whatever. The bags of soil now were costing as much, the bales were costing as much as the bags of soil. I hit upon this idea, again, I'm the queen of resourcefulness, right? everything around here is usually donated, found on the curb, you know, or whatever they put together. Our county used to hand out these separation bins for recyclables.
Oh, yeah.
But after everybody went to the big roll-off, you know, dumpsters for the waste removal, I started hitting up everybody, you know, give me your give me your bins. This is actually what I do, what I did the Kratky hydroponics in. But this year I did get a couple more bales. No, I just got 1 bale. I got 2 bags of soil, 1 bag of Coast of Maine compost, and filled the bottom of all of these bins with straw, and then mixed up the compost and the soil. So my total investment was like $20 for, what did I have, 10? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 actually, because it encompasses those 2 right there. These are all beans. The beauty of the straw bale garden is the straw gets wet and it never dries out. You just water it, even if you're having a drought, like we've had a lot of dry weather here in the last month especially. I don't have to be so, you know, particular about keeping these well watered because the straw is in there keeping them nice and moist, nice and cool even in the 95 degrees that we've had the last couple of weeks. The nutrients from the soil, it's the best of both worlds. So $20 for all of these.
Are there holes in the bottom of
in
them?
these ones?
Okay.
In these ones, yes. They naturally come with holes in them. When I wanted to do the hydroponics, I just got some caulk and I just filled in the holes.
Yeah.
And here is the Kratky hydroponic. You did an interview with a gentleman who does hydroponics.
Yeah.
And these are eggplants that I just put in last week in the Kratky hydroponic. The
So how
passive
does this
system
work?
doesn't require electricity. You don't have to run pumps or anything like that. Basically what you have is this nutrient. My only expense was the nutrients, which was like $35 and it'll last me like 5 years. The nutrient solution in this bin that was free, I caulked in the bottom. I make net cups I just burn holes in cottage cheese containers.
Yeah.
My other expense was a bag of perlite that, you know, will last me again 3 or 4 years. And then once you have your plants established, you literally, if you're doing them in soil, just rinse off the soil, put them down through the container, fill it with perlite.
And perlite's the medium?
Yeah, perlite is, that's the...
that stuff,
this white stuff here. I had this piece of styrofoam up in the attic from a project from years ago. So the only cost for this, again, was 2-year-old nutrient solution and a handful of perlite.
Yeah.
And these will produce so well. It's just, you know, straight nutrients being drawn up through the plant.
How many like cottage cheese containers could you put for this one box?
I try to just limit it with 2. It depends on the plants that you're, I mean, something, if you were doing something small rooted, whatever, you could probably get up to 9 in one bin. You know, eggplants will have a pretty good root system because they'll get to be about this tall.
Right.
And the tomatoes, gosh, my tomatoes, they were, you know, they were probably 6 feet tall last year. So even that, and this holds 10 gallons.
Right.
So even that, I would have to refill it probably, I would say about 6 weeks for the first time because they're establishing the roots. The beautiful thing about this is there's 2 kinds of roots. These are the aqua roots, the ones that go right down into the soil. But you'll start to see the water, after the nutrient solution starts to draw down, you get all these fuzzy little roots up at the top, the little white ones. Those are called air roots. Every plant has to have oxygen and as it draws down, so even when you do refill it, you don't want to drown out those air roots too.
Right.
So this is such a cool method. I was so happy to discover that last year. It performed great for me this past year. So I was happy to at least get an experiment going to show you how successful it could be.
I love it.
And it's cheap and easy,
yeah,
right? So.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. So I want to talk a little bit about your need for community. You said like you're on Social Security, you're on limited income. Everything that you do or everything that you use is basically recycled materials from somewhere else.
Yep.
Why are you so focused on helping others when you're at like a harder point yourself? Does that make sense?
I guess that's the way I've always been. I'm not trying to puff up myself or anything like that. But, that's just the way I've always been. I'm a believer, and that's the most important part of my life. He's taken care of me, so the mandate is to now take care of your brethren.
Yeah.
So that's, and it's my joy. I was the one responsible enough to actually keep the roof over my family's head. I was the one here caring for my mother up until the day she passed away. It stands to reason that when I have these two wonderful elderly sisters down the street, that one is 95, the other is 84,
wow.
that I care for. Both of them, the 84-year-old who I actually plant a garden for her. I actually she bought through me after seeing my success a green stalk this year, which is great. She's visually impaired, not all that mobile anymore, so to have everything in the backyard right there that she can come out and access, as long as she has her basil and her tomatoes, she's in heaven, right?
Yeah.
And my new neighbor across the street, the wonderful woman that bought the house, I just went over and introduced myself. I said, Mark had wonderful raised bed garden out back there. Do you have any intention of planting it? Because I have all these leftover tomato and pepper starts. Would you like me to come and plant it for you? And she was so thrilled. Little beknownst to me, she had just bought 3 Vigo containers, hadn't had a chance to put them together because she's still moving in, all that kind of stuff. She came over to view my garden and she was blown away. The next day, while she was at work, I planted her garden for her.
Aww.
And she was, welcome to the neighborhood.
So you say that you're planting their garden for them. Are you harvesting it too? And or is it just theirs? Like you're like, I'll just get it started.
This is all hers.
It's all hers.
This is all hers. My neighbor here, this garden, he just loves to grow plants. He's not so much about eating them, but he just loves the process. So I actually put in his garden this year, and I will harvest probably 90% of it because I will put it up. Actually, those white zucchinis that were in the bed, the bin there, those actually came from his garden because I don't want to waste space on rambling plants like zucchini.
Right.
So he's like my 2.0 garden over there. Another thing, this wonderful neighbor, the new neighbor over there, she stopped in the next day after seeing that I had planted it, and she handed me a beautiful gift card for Country Max right up the street,
Aww.
right? What she did not know is that I had just purchased a couple of dormant seedless Concord grapes from an online source that have not broken dormancy, and I don't think that they're going to either. I went to Country Max just to get a bag of compost, and they had 25% off on their seedless Concord grapes.
Aww.
So she bought me that, out of the goodness of her heart, she bought me that beautiful seedless Concord grape.
Aww.
And as much as they had a second one there, I bought this one. So this is brand new. This has only been in here for like 3 weeks.
Speaking of not really knowing what you're going to find, as we finish up here a little bit, I'm curious what your advice would be, because I think there are a lot of people in situations where they don't have a lot of extra cash to spend, but they want to, not necessarily, like you said, not really be a prepper, but be prepared for, having food or sharing the food, keeping their family safe. This isn't a very big spot.
No,
I mean, your
not at all.
garden is what, like 50 by 50?
Yeah, just
feet?
about that.
Yeah?
Yeah, just about that.
So what would your recommendation be to someone who maybe was in your position, and what could they do to get to this spot?
Again, harkening back to Jessica's adage to turn your waiting room into a classroom, because we're all in a waiting room at one point, it's some aspect of our lives, right?
Yeah.
If you're in an apartment, you know what? You can do Kratky hydroponics.
Yeah.
You can just That's how I actually started with those. I wanted to make sure that I could grow something in the house in the winter in case everything required that, right? COVID changed a lot of people's perspective on food resiliency. Go to YouTube, go to Pinterest, search all the things, get the information, see what other people are doing. This hopefully is an inspiration for somebody out there that, you know, with very little, you can do so much, and don't be afraid to ask. Ask for help, ask questions, and take part. I feel that what I've done here in this neighborhood is become a community gardener for my neighbor here, my neighbor there, my 2 neighbors up there too, and anybody else who wants to come here and just ask questions. I love to give tours. I love to give tours of the backyard. It makes me feel that nothing I'm doing is in vain. Somebody's going to partake of it, you know, whether it's my family or friends, or maybe even just a nugget, a seed of knowledge that, you know, you can do these things. There's nothing to putting together that hydroponic. You do not need electricity. You don't need to really spend a lot of money. You just need to be resourceful and creative. That's always been my gift. Girls know how to shop. I'm a thrifter from way back. Anything that you put your mind to, you can accomplish.
Yeah,
you know?
I love that. I love that it doesn't have to be so complicated. Like, people think about putting a garden out and they're like, oh, it needs to be this huge thing. I need an electric tiller. I need to have trellises. And you're like, no, like a few plants is fine. You know, you don't have to have it all. And you can slowly build over time
and
too.
remember, seeds are cheap.
Yeah.
You know, if you do nothing else, put up a rack in a basement, or in my case, it's my south-facing bathroom, right? And get some very cheap shop lights, and you've got yourself seed starters. You know, I literally started, I think, 150 tomato plants this year. Simple things that you can do like that. Container gardening, you'll see pots all over the place. A green stalk, when they have their sale on, my gosh, they just had a sale, their 10th anniversary sale. That big planter right there was
in the middle, the tall one?
That big one right there was on sale for like $97. Now, you consider the cost of the soil in there for $200 or so, you've got yourself something that you can plant on a balcony. If you're in an apartment, you can put it on a driveway, even if you don't have a yard. The straw bale gardening, you can do it on pavement if you don't have soil. You know, and it's cheap, it's easy, set it and forget it. You know, it's a wonderful thing, but you just be resourceful. Just investigate, research, learn. That's all it takes.
My last question is more of an emotional question.
Sure.
How do you feel since you didn't get your out in the woods, out in the way back homestead, but you have lived in the same 2 city blocks for your whole life? How do you feel about that?
You know, it's funny. 3 years ago, I was walking my little dog Benji, who is buried under that little angel right there. I was walking him up the street, and I was praying, and you know, Father, because Jess just did a video on the dream, you know, dreaming, don't stop dreaming, or whatever. And I was thinking about that very thing. Father, I used to have this incredible drive, this dream to go homestead out there. And he said, well, but Vonnie, you're homesteading right here. That's when I realized that he put the desire in my heart in the first place. You know, delight yourself in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. But the truth of that is he's the one that puts the desire there in the first place, right? So I am fulfilling that dream. It's just in a different way. And along the way, I blessed my family. I blessed this neighborhood as much as they have blessed me. There are no hard feelings. There is no sense of regret, no regrets whatsoever. If I did not love what he's given me here, I wouldn't be ushering people back to enjoy it with me. You know, so no regrets.
Thank you, Vonnie, so much for
My
having
pleasure.
me out here. I really appreciate it. I love this. I know that we talked before we came out here. You were like, oh, I'm not very big. I don't have a farm. I don't think that, you know, I'm what you want to see. But this is exactly what I want to see.
Well, God bless you.
Because we believe that everybody deserves a seat at the table when we're all just trying to feed ourselves. And we're just trying to feed our community. You know, there is no right or wrong way to do this. It's just growing food and eating.
That's right.
You know, so
we were made for a garden.
Yeah, I love this. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Olivia. God bless.
Thanks. Like I was telling Vonnie, we believe everybody deserves a seat at the table. And I don't care if you have one of those tower gardens on a balcony, or if you've got 5,000 acres of vegetables that you're doing and everything in between. Seeing people like her, knowing their story, learning from them how to be so resourceful. We don't have to make it a big deal, you know? We don't have to spend a bunch of money on these official beds to have a raised garden bed. You can just find things on the side of the road and use them, you know? I know that a lot of the things she's talked about with me today, we're gonna take with us when we have our own homestead again, and I hope that you guys come along with us on that journey. But before we get there, we still have quite a few more farms to see. We have set up a couple different things. We have been asked how you guys can support us. What more can you do? We'll always keep watching, keep sharing, commenting, liking, all of those things. But if you want to do just a little bit more, we have set up a Patreon. And for just $3 a month, you can help support us and keep us moving on the road. We want to be on the road for as long as we can. We would like to go to all 50 states. We would like to see as many farms, farmers, homesteaders, gardeners, everything in between. We want to see as many people as we can. And if you feel it in your heart to help us along that journey, we would greatly, greatly appreciate it. Until the next time I see you, enjoy some sunshine.